Welcome to the Seven Figure Leaders podcast. This podcast was created to celebrate the success stories of seven-figure business owners, giving them a platform to share their insights and lessons learned in order to inspire other business owners. As well as that, it's an opportunity to build new connections. So if you're a seven-figure business owner or someone who works with seven-figure business owners and you're looking for introductions to potential stakeholders, strategic partners and clients, I'd love to hear from you or have you on as a guest and see if I can help make those connections for you. Just go to synergycfosolutions.co. That's synergycfosolutions.co and click podcast. And there you'll find the link to apply. Hi there. So if we haven't already met, my name is Tom Griffiths. It's my goal to help as many business owners as possible to have a growing, profitable and successful business, however that business owner defines success. Now, as you may be aware, about 50% of businesses actually fail before their fifth birthday. And the reason for that high failure rate is that most of those businesses lack cash, or all of those businesses lack cash. And more specifically around that, the business owners of those businesses were forced to close the business down because either they ran out of cash or they were not able to create a business that produced enough cash flow to make it worth staying in business. So it's my goal over my career to reverse that 50% failure rate by as much as I possibly can and have whatever dent in it I can. Now, the way I'm going to achieve that is by helping business owners understand their numbers so they can make better decisions for the business, so they can maximize their profits and cash flow. Now, with more profits and cash flow, we can keep the business healthy and we can solve any problem that we face in the business. Also, that we can achieve our personal and professional goals through the business. So I've been in finance for about 10 years. And since starting my own business about 3 years ago, I've added about 8 million in profits and 20 million in value to small businesses, and that's in pounds. And prior to that, I worked with very large businesses in my roles in banking and asset management in London. Okay, so this podcast was created firstly to celebrate the success of those business owners who have made it to seven figures as a way to share their journeys and their lessons learned to inspire others. And then as part of that, I'll also be interviewing business owners who work with seven-figure business owners who have valuable insights to share about what they see through the work that they do with those business owners. And as well as that, it's an opportunity to build new connections. So if you're a seven-figure business owner or someone who works with seven-figure business owners and you're looking for introductions to potential stakeholders, strategic partners, potential clients, then I'd love to hear from you and potentially have you on as a guest. And as a listener, you're going to gain valuable insights into what it takes to actually get your business to seven figures. And if you're already at that level, then you're going to hear from other business owners just like you and hopefully get some really good ideas on how to run your business and perhaps some things that you hadn't yet thought of. And you'll also be able to build your network with valuable connections, which can then help you grow your business. So we specialize in having guests on the podcast that have a bit of experience and have already built successful businesses. So someone that's got a bit of expertise, got a good story for our business owner audience. Okay, so if your business is at seven figures in revenue, or you work with business owners or businesses at seven figures in revenue, and you'd like to be a guest, then please apply. We have an application form. Share it with whoever you like or whoever you think would be appropriate. Just take you a minute or so to apply. So just go to synergycfosolutions.co. That's synergycfosolutions.co and click on podcast. And then on that page, you'll see the application form. So I'm really excited to celebrate you as a guest to all of my audiences. And even though this is a newer podcast, I don't have a huge number of listeners at this stage, but I'd much rather present to 50 business owners than 50,000 comic book fans. Okay, so that's it for an intro. I'm just going to share a bit more around kind of the angle that I'm coming from so that you can understand the context behind the questions that I'm going to be asking the guests on my podcast so that it all ties in nicely. So my background, as I mentioned, I worked in finance, in banking for 7 years in London. After that, which was about 3 years ago when I left, I started my own consulting practice. And to start with, I was offering kind of whatever people came to me for, whatever people needed help with. And mostly it was people in my network who wanted support with things like mergers and acquisitions, helping their business get ready for sale, fundraising, that sort of thing. It was all very ad hoc. And in that process, what I realized was that underlying kind of what they were asking me, these business owners generally didn't understand profitability and cash flow and what creates a good quality business. And so what I realized was that if the few people in my network that are asking me about this are having these problems, then this must be a symptom of something much bigger going on in the market for small businesses. And so I decided to narrow my focus on focusing on helping business owners improve their profits and cash flow. And so that is the context behind how I got to where I am now, which is like I said, helping business owners understand their numbers so they can understand what's going on inside the business, so they can make better decisions to improve profits and cash flow. Focusing on profits and cash flow the whole time, because profits and cash flow solve the other problems we face in our business. So with that said, why do most businesses fail? Now, the vast majority of businesses fail as a direct consequence of cash flows, around 80%, depending on where you look. Okay, so of the 50% that fail by their fifth birthday, 80% of those fail because of cash flow issues. Now, of those other 20%, whilst on the surface, it may not be because of cash flow issues, the bottom line is that the business owner hasn't worked out how to make enough cash from the business so that it's worth staying in business, because nobody would close a business that's generating enough cash flow or generating enough cash, because it wouldn't make sense to close it. With cash, you can solve any problem that you have in the business. Okay, but without it, the business struggles to grow and fights for survival all the time. And that's really the catch-22 scenario that most business owners find themselves in. They need cash to grow the business, but they can't grow the business without cash. So, for example, one of my clients, they're doing about 700 grand in revenue at the moment, and they need to make a hire so that they can take a lot of work off their plate so that they can focus on business development and grow the business up past $1 million in revenue. But they don't have any excess cash in the business, so they can't actually afford to make that hire at the moment. Okay, so they're in that catch-22 scenario where they need a bit of excess cash so that they can make that hire, so that they can take the work off their plate and focus on the higher value activities, which is business development and sales in their case. But they can't do that. Okay, so they're in that catch-22 scenario that they feel stuck. Okay, so it becomes a never-ending cycle of kind of struggling to make payroll when you haven't got enough cash, worrying about whether a new employee is going to perform if you made a new hire and you're tight on cash. And as a result of that, most business owners don't pay themselves what they're worth or what they would get in a job. Okay, so another one of my clients, when I first started working with them, they sort of said, I've been doing this for 4 years now. I've been paying myself the bare minimum over all of this time. I haven't been able to go on holiday. I haven't been able to relax in my time off, which has been very limited as well. And the business isn't really worth much because it's completely dependent on me. I can't even take a week off. I can't take a few days off without checking my emails. So he was of the realization that he's taken all this risk to start his own business, but actually he would have been better off in a job instead where somebody pays him a higher salary and he can actually go home from work and switch off. Okay. And what actually exacerbates this problem that I'm talking about is that most business owners start a business because they're experts at a craft. So a builder starts a construction business, and a plumber starts a plumbing business, a chef opens a restaurant. Okay, because they think that by opening a business or starting a business, they're going to be able to do more of their craft. Okay, but what happens when they start the business with that mindset is that they are inadvertently creating a job for themselves because they want to do more of their craft. But what happens when they start a business is that they actually become a business owner. And to have a business that doesn't fail, you have to become good, or you have to understand how to manage the finances so that you don't go out of business. Okay, so they struggle. And as a result, they do what they do best, which is continue to focus on their craft. And problems go ignored, and the business owner ends up spinning all the plates and becoming more stressed because they're not really identifying the root cause of the problem. So if we know why businesses fail and how they fail, how do we actually fix the failure rate and stop them failing? Okay, so hopefully we're on the same page now that the sole focus of any business owner has to be on generating consistent positive cash flow for the business, or at least positive cash flow, because without cash flow, the business is going to die, or the business is going to fail, or it's going to struggle endlessly. Okay, so how do we focus on generating consistent positive cash flow? And this is exactly what I do with my clients. Okay, so I'm essentially providing CFO-like advice to my clients, which are small business owners. I'm giving them the same kind of strategic advice that a large company has access to. So the CFO of a big company is essentially the right-hand person to the CEO. They're making sure that the business stays healthy. And they're guiding the CEO on making strategic decisions for the business so that they can improve profits and cash flow for the owners or the shareholders of the business so that they can get paid more. And that's exactly what I'm doing for my clients, small business owners. Okay, so I'm providing strategic advice so that they can increase profits and cash flow, so the business can stay healthy and they can pay themselves more. Okay, so it's not the role of accountant; it's different to that. An accountant fulfills a vital role for a small business or any business by helping the business file their accounts and pay the right amount of tax. Okay, so they do that by looking at what's happened. So it's backwards looking. Whereas what I'm doing is actually forwards looking, strategic guidance to help the business owner improve their profits and cash flow so they can hit the numbers they need to fulfill their personal and professional goals through the business, whether that's selling it in 3 years, working 1 day a week, or whatever it is. So here is the process I follow with my clients and that you can implement today as well. And anyone can copy this. So first of all, let's just simplify it all. So businesses are made up of the same 16 parts. Doesn't matter whether it's Uber or Amazon or Google or a dental practice on a high street, construction business with 1 person, 100 people, all the same 16 parts. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to break up the business into those 16 parts. So these are the things that drive revenue, profits, and cash flow. So we need to have a clear picture of what's going on, not a generic, where we're going. We need to have a clear target of where we're going. So not a generic, I want to sell the business for $1 million, which is what I hear a lot because that's what people, like to talk at the golf club, but a detailed breakdown of exactly how much you actually need to move to the next chapter of your life. And then a breakdown of what the business needs to look like to actually get you to that point. Okay, so then we break it down into the key metrics, which are those 16 drivers, and reverse engineer it back to today. So for example, if we want to sell the business for $1 million, we would break down what the business needs to look like for each of those 16 drivers. So for example, we have revenue, profit, and cash flow within the 16 drivers. And then within each one of those, we have the drivers of those elements. Okay, so like lead generation, conversion rate into clients, retention rate, upsell rate, cost of goods sold as a potential sales. I'm not going to go through them all. You can get them later. But that's what we do. So we need to get a clear picture of what the business is going to look like in the future and then reverse engineer that back to today. Okay, and then we need to get a picture of how the business is currently doing. So this means looking at those 16 drivers broken down into where we are today. Okay, and then using that information, we can identify what's working and not working in the business. Where are we having problems? Which parts of these 16 drivers are not where they need to be? Where are we performing worse than competitors? Where are we doing better than competitors? And which ones can we most easily improve so that our revenue, profit, and cash flow is going to increase by the most amount? Okay. And then finally, we need to work out what to do next to either get the business back on track to hitting our target or to stay on track to hitting our target. Okay, and what this does by following this process is it forces the business owner to focus on only the most important things in the business. Okay, so we would set 30-day targets or 30-day goals, and the business owner should essentially focus most of their attention for those 30 days on those objectives and next steps that we set. Okay, and by doing that, they're forced to work on the business and they can remove themselves from being stuck in it. Okay, so they stop spinning all those other plates and they focus just on the most important things. Because a lot of business owners actually fill most of their time up doing things which are not high value and which are not moving the dial forward, which are not helping them move revenue, profit, and cash flow in the direction that they need it to go. For example, one of my clients, Sammy, we did this analysis. We broke down the business into the 16 drivers, and he thought the business was performing well because they're growing every year. But what we actually discovered was that a lot of their business was coming from new clients every time, and they weren't having much repeat business from people that they'd worked with over the last year or few years. So what we did is we went into detail around why that was happening and what would an industry standard be for that. So this was an events management business where a large part of what they were doing was relationship based. So we would expect the repeat custom rate to be pretty high. So what we did is we put together a plan to work out what can be done over the next 30 days to actually improve that. And it doesn't mean fixing the problem in 30 days. It means taking small steps to fixing the problem. Okay, so that's just one example of what that might look like. And with another one of my clients, Michael, we did this analysis and we realized that they needed to be spending all of their time on business development, but all of their time was actually taken up doing other things because they thought that they were moving the dial forward by focusing on those other things. And so what we realized is that actually a lot of that other stuff that they were doing could be immediately cut out and it wouldn't make a difference to the numbers. And that would free up more time so that time can be spent focusing on business development and nothing else. Okay, so that's just a couple of brief examples. So that's a bit of a breakdown on how I got here and some context for you and some examples around, the type of work that I do, and just so you kind of have a bit of an idea of where my questions are coming from that I'll be asking my guests. Okay. So if you want to learn a bit more about the 16 drivers that I just mentioned, then you can go to synergycfosolutions.co/16 drivers. That's synergycfosolutions.co/16 drivers. And you can download a copy of the report that goes into all that in lots of detail. And then if you'd like to have a chat with me separately, you can go to the website, synergycfosolutions.co, and you can find my contact details on there. Or if that all seems like too much for now, then I think the vast majority of business owners can get ahead of their competition just by reviewing their numbers every month. And you might not understand them perfectly in month one, but just keep doing it. And naturally, over time, you're going to understand them more. Okay, so by shining a light on something that hasn't been, hasn't had a light shone on it before, you're going to bring into your awareness these numbers, and naturally, things will start running more efficiently. So just review the numbers every month, look at what's happened, do some analysis, compare what's happened this month just gone versus the prior months, and see if you can paint a picture and understand, okay, that number's increased from this to that. Why is it increased? And then you should be able to, remember, oh, that happened in that month, and that explains why that number has jumped. Okay. And just like I said, by shining a light on this, you're going to bring it all into the front of your awareness, and naturally you're going to start running things more efficiently, and you can then build on that. So then you can start implementing processes to kind of go a step further and actually look to try and optimize your profitability and your cash flow. So that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed the podcast, and we'll talk soon. Thanks for listening. As I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, this podcast was created to celebrate the success stories of seven-figure business owners, giving them a platform to share their insights and lessons learned in order to inspire other business owners. As well as that, it's an opportunity to build new connections. So if you're a seven-figure business owner or someone who works with seven-figure business owners and you're looking for introductions to potential stakeholders, strategic partners, and clients, I'd love to hear from you or have you on as a guest and see if I can help make those connections for you. Just go to synergycfosolutions.co. That's synergycfosolutions.co and click podcast. On that page, you'll find the link to apply.